Thanks, Brandon.
Who's
Cheers.
Brandon?
What does that say?
Chike. It is a coffee protein brand
Oh.
out of Abilene, Texas.
Abilene, Texas.
What's the temperature in Texas right now, Deb?
Hot.
What's the temperature here right now, Deb?
Very nice.
It's pretty
Sweet.
nice.
Everybody was complaining about how hot it was going to be today. I haven't been overly hot yet. So.
No, I haven't burned up. Aaron, on the mic. Me. And we got a friend here today, Deb.
Whoa.
That's not Shane.
That's
Hey,
not Shane.
100% not Shane.
Wow, a Team Deb shirt 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Seen Deb's shirt 2 weeks ago. Do you know I get asked the most questions about this shirt?
They're like, "Who's Deb?"
The kids at school are like, "What does Asian on occasion mean?" I'm always like, my response is always, well, "Why don't you go put it in Instagram?" So I'm hoping.
Yeah, don't put it in Google.
That, yeah, exactly. I'm hoping you pop up whenever they put it in Instagram.
I hope so, too.
Yeah, probably. Hashtag.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've had some good hashtags over the year. I don't remember all of them, but she had some good ones.
She did.
Yeah.
It's usually just stuff you say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I forget everything I say. People will be like, "Hey, what was that thing you said that one time about
Words.
polar bears?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I hate them too." Well, cool. All right, Deb,
Chris.
we flew you in from Texas just for this
Paid for it.
40-minute.
Paid sponsor.
No, Deb was back visiting some family and some friends, and so we figured, why not have you on a chit chat? Deb used to coach at CrossFit Bohica when she did live here, and then
Many moons ago.
you moved. Where'd you move first?
Alabama.
Alabama first,
I was there for about 7 months.
7 months, and then you moved to
Austin.
Austin, Texas.
Like Alabama or Austin better?
Austin.
Austin.
I hear
100%.
Austin's a nice place.
Who had better food, Alabama or Austin?
Austin.
Austin.
Yeah. What part of Alabama were you in?
Huntsville.
Huntsville.
That's where NASA is.
Oh yeah.
Sweet.
The rocket ships.
Yeah.
They had rocket ships.
Is that where SpaceX is now?
Yeah, I think so.
Brandon, can you get a check on that, producer? Where SpaceX is?
Who's Brandon?
Brandon's the producer.
Brandon's our intern.
Brandon the intern?
Brandon the intern.
Okay.
Bit.
Bit.
Brandon the intern.
Bit. Your new name's Bit.
Nice.
You want to know where SpaceX is?
Yeah. Deb, you were. How'd you find? You start off in CrossFit, basically, right?
Yeah, so whenever I started at ECU,
Mm-hmm.
I joined CrossFit Tier 1
Yeah.
because I had no friends in Greenville. So everyone was like, oh, you should try CrossFit because you'll make all these friends there and you're athletic, so you'll like it. So I started there. I was there for like 2 years, maybe 2.5. Then moved back home, went to CrossFit Goldsboro for a little while, then CrossFit Bohica.
Nice. And when did so you're a weightlifter? If anyone doesn't know or doesn't follow Deb yet on Instagram, where's SpaceX at?
It is headquartered and founded in Hawthorne, California.
Knew
It
it.
took off in Cape Canaveral because that's just where
Yeah.
the takeoff was. But actually, it's founded by Elon Musk. Everybody knows that. But really, its main purpose for founding was to minimize space exploration costs to the national government,
So
so
true.
they could colonize Mars.
So close to Alabama.
Capitalism at its finest. That's got political. All right. So, you're a weightlifter. What's your Instagram handle?
Asian on occasion _ Deb.
_Deb. All right. Tune in for the heavy lifts. I think you post semi-daily. Just a couple of lifts.
Yeah, I usually post stuff on my story. I don't post that many like actual posts as
Yeah.
much, but I will.
Story's where it's at anyway.
Yeah.
I think honestly, more people see your story than they see a post if you make it.
I don't know. Anna has told me twice now where I've come up on her explore page, which I thought was interesting because she follows me, or maybe like on maybe a page she doesn't have or that she doesn't follow me on. I don't know.
Like the search function?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's if it's a hashtag.
Okay.
Like if she likes so many posts with that hashtag in it, and if another post has that hashtag, it'll.
Okay.
Yeah. I've dove into that, and I still understand how the algorithms for all that stuff
Me
work.
either. I just thought it was cool. I was like, oh.
Head first.
Head first, yeah.
Wondering.
That brings about a good question. Do you trust people who came out of the womb feet first more, or came out of the womb head first more?
I don't know if you can answer that question, because what about people who were cut out of the womb?
Yeah.
Okay, were they pulled out feet first or head first?
I think just all at once.
Yeah, they just reach in there and take them out.
Some
I've
part of
seen
the
it.
body comes out first.
Nah, bro. Reach in, take out. Kid comes out spitting out blood. And no, I've been in the hospital room once when that happened. So,
Grotesque.
Well, I guess that's the third option then.
yeah. All right. You
Hi,
tell
I'm
me,
Deb. Did you come out of the womb head first or feet first?
Yeah.
What if
I
that
think
was
it
your
says a lot
intro
about you.
question with everyone?
I think I would trust someone who comes out feet first a little bit more.
It's a lot more dangerous that way. They
Yeah,
like to
but
live
that's
on
a
the wild
person
side.
who, understands what could be on the other side.
Interesting.
Coming out head first, that's like diving into a pool full of cement.
Of what?
So, Deb, when did you get into weightlifting?
I think I chose to make the switch from CrossFit to just strictly weightlifting in 2017.
2017, so not that long
Yeah,
ago.
not that
really.
long ago. I think on my Facebook memories, I just had it showed where I had my first meet recently, so 3 years ago.
Yeah. And what were your numbers when you started?
I think my best snatch was around 150 pounds. Best clean and jerk was right around 200, maybe 205.
Pretty good. It's a good
Yeah.
start. It's a solid start. What are they now?
So I just snatched 205 last Friday here,
Nice.
and then I clean and jerked 150 or 250.
250.
So I think that's my best snatch. I think my best clean and jerk. I've done 120 kilos off the blocks. I don't know what that translates to in pounds, but
270 something. 260 something?
Yeah, 264.
you got that math?
You said 120?
I'm not that Asian. I
It's
can't
just
math in my head.
264.
What was the kilogram?
120.
120.
Two 64.6.
264.7.
He said 0.6,
Six.
but whatever.
I had clips on. 0.7.
Eclipse, yeah. that adds an ounce.
And a half.
So you added about 50 to 55 pounds each lift, right? Roughly. Since you started.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. How many competitions have you done?
Ooh, a lot.
A lot?
Yeah, so whenever I first started, I didn't realize the periodization and the training protocols for weightlifting. I thought it was like CrossFit and you could just compete whenever you wanted.
Right, yeah.
So I did 3 or 4 competitions kind of back to back to back. And then once I got hooked up with my coach, Travis, he kind of told me okay, well, we'll do a whole training cycle and then you'll compete and then we'll back off, do another training cycle, compete again.
Yeah.
So I compete usually 3 to 4 times a year on average.
Now, is that planned ahead?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the year, we kind of choose as a team what meets we want to go to because they have the American Open Series. So I would say if you had to measure meets, local meets would be here, then the next step up would be the series meets. Then they have AO finals and nationals, and the next step above that would be making an international team.
Yeah.
So the series meets, it's the step above being a local lifter. So a lot of the people on the team, they might not be able to make it to that finals or nationals, so we do the series meets as a team.
Yeah.
So we look and see where they're located, and then we choose, we always do the Arnold in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending on where they're at, we'll choose if we want to do the second or the third. So this
Yeah.
year we were going to go, because it was going to be in Winston-Salem. So we had planned to do AO2, but it was canceled because of coronavirus.
All right.
And then the next plan is to do AO3 in Vegas. But we'll see if that happens or not.
Yeah.
When you start doing the series, do you see a lot of the same people there?
Yes and no. So depending on where it is, Vegas gets a lot of people, I think, because it's very cheap to fly to. So a lot more people can go to that area. So, but I would say that there are some meets where I've seen, like, I've been in the same session with some of the same lifters multiple times.
Gotcha.
Definitely at finals, you see a lot more because the higher level lifters, they don't need to go to the series meets. It doesn't do anything for them. So you won't see them as frequently unless it's happens to be some kind of qualifier. Like the Arnold this year was a qualifier, which they didn't compete in the same sessions as I was in, but they were still like Sarah Robles, Maddie Rogers, Jenny, they were all there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some people that like I've met from these series meets that I'm now like friends with on Instagram, and we follow each other. We can encourage each other. It's nice little community.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Who's the of folks you've met? What do you feel like? Because you just threw out some big names to the table. Who do you feel like was like the coolest big name to run into? Like didn't present an air, just you could walk up and talk to them. And it was...
I'm a little biased, I feel like, because Tim, my boyfriend, works for Tupood, and Maddie is like their big sponsored athlete. So I actually interact with her a lot.
Gotcha.
Because anytime I go to a series meet, I'm usually with Tim, like helping out with the Tupood booth.
Gotcha.
So she'll stop by and do like meet and greets and stuff like that, but she'll hang out and like hide out there sometimes if there's too many people running around. So I've gotten to like have conversations with her on several occasions. I think she's very mellow, cool, down to earth. I've taken a picture with Sarah before. She was very sweet as well, a very happy person. But I usually, I don't know, I don't fangirl that much, so I don't go out of my way. If I see any of them, I'm like, oh my god, there's like so-and-so. I have to go get a picture with them.
Shane's like that.
Fangirl?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
very much so.
Yeah. He has a picture with everybody.
He does.
To post it to the gram.
It's got to. It didn't happen if it doesn't go on Instagram.
Yeah.
All right. So when is your? You said you were going to do the Winston-Salem one. So now the next planned one's Las Vegas, if it happens.
That's the next target meet. So that's what we're training for now. Excuse me. But if that doesn't happen, we're going to do AO finals. And that's also combined with national. So what they'll do is you can choose to register for one or the other or both.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I don't know if I'm in a position to podium for nationals, but I could possibly podium at finals. So I might just register for one and not the other because it's just a waste of money in my opinion. But that's going to be the next target meet if Vegas doesn't happen.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about like when you first started weightlifting, you didn't realize it was a little bit different in terms of like in CrossFit, competing is still sort of built off this like be good at everything, not great at anything.
Kind of have like an engine.
You should like be able to relatively compete at a high level at all times, right? Even though like super competitive CrossFit, they do similar things like further out. They'll do something different than the week before, but in general, weightlifting is very specific, as in you want to peak at it at a very specific time.
Yeah.
How is that transition for you going from like training just weightlifting with almost a CrossFit mindset to switching your mindset to like, all right, this is how you need to train as a weightlifter?
So at first, I feel like it was a little difficult just because it is a lot of grunt work. You do a lot of like repetitions.
Yeah.
You'll have, you'll go through that like hypertrophy phase where you have to just do a ton of like deadlifts or pulls or squats, and it's like 10 by 10 sometimes. And you're just like, oh my God, this is so hard.
Yeah.
And then as you move into more of a strength phase or like getting close to peaking, you go into that higher intensity and like the lower volume, just do like 3 or 4 singles at 80 to 90%. And even that, like you think the volume's hard, but then you get to that point and like this is also very hard because it's just taking a lot out of your body.
Yeah.
But now I just really enjoy it. I like both the grunt work of just having to do like tons of volume because I know that it makes me better, and then everyone just loves heavy singles.
Yeah.
That's the fun part, and you have to get through all the really hard stuff in grunt work to get to that fun part.
Which one's more mentally difficult for you?
I think the heavy singles, just because for me, I like to overanalyze stuff. So the like 205 that I hit the other day. Like, I've put 90 kilos on the bar back home several times, but like, I have kilo plates and they're all colored, so I know, like, no matter what I put on the bar, I'll know that it's 90.
Yeah.
And I just get this block that as soon as I put 90 or 91 on the bar, I pull it to my face and then I just drop it. I don't pull under.
Right.
But here, like, all the plates are black and like you don't even think about it. I was just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep adding like 5 pounds each time and like we'll see what I end up at.
Right.
So it is very mentally challenging for me personally, but it is nice to see like that payoff, especially like we don't generally do a lot of like heavy lifts outside of competition. Like my last meet, my best clean and jerk I did was 112, and in training I think the best I hit was 105.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't have to hit the heavy stuff in training to perform on the platform.
Right.
Which is really nice when you think about it. So now that I'm hitting some heavier lifts, I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do 3-6 months from now?
Yeah.
Because I know I don't have to hit it here.
As you made your transition from CrossFit into weightlifting, did you ever struggle with the mindset? I think very much so in CrossFit, we see people, I got to max all the time. And weightlifting, that's not the case. I mean, you just said it's not the case. And you can have a day where you feel really, really good, but your coach still is not going to want you to go over a certain percentage to hit the stimulus that they want to hit for the day. Did you have a hard time making that transition in your mindset?
I think the first year was probably the hardest, just because, especially with CrossFit, when you do have the opportunity to max so much, you expect it. And like, I remember in 2017, I made a goal sheet, and one of my first goals was to snatch 200 pounds, and like my best was 150 at the time. So I was expecting by the end of the year to be snatching 200, and I think my best snatch at the end of the year was like 175 pounds or something like that, like 80 kilos. So for me, that was like a little defeating, because I was like, oh, I didn't hit my goal. But at the same time, my coach was like, well, this is like a sport where it's the long game. You can't expect to PR every single time, and you have to really work hard, and those PRs will come in like 1 kilo increments, like over time.
Yeah.
So that was a little hard to grasp at first, because you get those newbie gains and you just want to get stronger and have these high numbers, and you see everyone on Instagram who's, you know, snatching 100 and clean and jerking 140, and you're like, I want to do that. But it just, you know, these people have been in it 6-7 years, and, you know, for me it's half the time I've been in, so I have to like look at it that way too.
So now that you're to the point where your numbers are slowing down a little bit, as far as you're not making the gains as fast as you once were, how do you mentally approach, hey, this was a really good day, or this is a really good thing, because you don't have the number figure to tell you that?
I think just building consistency overall. So for me, like personally, I had a big problem. Like anytime I would get to like 80 kilos or higher on a snatch, I would duck walk or catch it kind of funny and have to struggle to stand it up. Now, I know I have a good day if I catch all my lifts the exact same way. Yeah. They all feel the same, they all look the same. And that's just like one way that I measure that I'm getting better. Like my turnover is really good. I'm not having to like double bounce out of a clean. Just things like that are a good measure for me. And then we also just do like percentage work a lot and rep maxes. I think the rep maxes help a lot, because you're not really wearing yourself down to a heavy single, but you're still getting enough heavy intensity to make you feel like you've done something.
Gotcha. Yeah. With that consistency that you've built, when you miss a lift, can you normally tell why you've missed the lift?
Oh, yeah,
Before
for sure.
going and looking at film, you can tell why you missed the lift.
Normally I can tell, like, oh yeah, I just like didn't pull, like finish my pull, or I pulled it way too hard and that's why I threw it behind me. Didn't.
How do you handle that? Because I think that's a big thing that I see a lot with people. As soon as they miss one, they almost want to nitpick and analyze every single part of their lift. and it almost paralyzes them from like doing anything else that day. You know what I mean? Like you'll see people, let's say their best snatch is like 70 kilos, but they'll hit 55 funky, or they'll miss 55 once or twice, and it's in their head, and it's like they're not going to a 55 today because like anything they do, they think they're already going to screw it up.
Yeah, I think sometimes you just have to either just maybe go down and like do a wave to get that out of your mind. Like you might have caught it funny, so like let's drop it down and we'll do 35 and then 45 and then go back to 55, just because it could just be a fluke. And you're not always going to be 100% every day either. Yeah. So sometimes when you have like a heavy single, like it's a heavy single for that day, just because you don't hit your max or your like PR, it doesn't mean that you're not getting better. It's just, it's not what was meant for that day. Yeah. I just don't think that it helps you to overanalyze anything. Yeah. But I can definitely see where it happens a lot. Yeah. It's great that you mentioned actually about maxing out so often, because it's funny that people want to max out in the sport that I coach the most, which is CrossFit. Mm-hmm. People want to max out in that sport, but there's almost never maxing out in CrossFit. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like what your top end max really doesn't matter that much. Exactly. What your 3s and 5s matter more, and then being technically proficient in lifts is way more important. Yeah. And that's how I feel now too. Like some days I think about it, I'm like, man, I really wish, like when I first started like CrossFit and learning how to snatch and clean and jerk, I really got the basics down. Mm-hmm. That way we didn't have to spend like my first year and a half correcting how I snatched or how I cleaned, because you develop bad habits, and then they're hard to break, and then they might not affect you right away, but like as the weights get heavier, they're going to have an impact on how you lift. So I think it's definitely the most important is to be proficient. Yeah, like you need to be making sure you're moving well before you try and add like any sort of weight. Yeah, because what good is it to clean 150 kilos if you're just going to break your wrist because you catch it like this? Right. Or you can only do it once out of every 12 times you try it. Yeah. Because it was a fluke that you got it, not that it was your standard that you got it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that was a really good point. I think like people get caught up in thinking, like especially from like a programming standpoint, people will look at me funny if I ever say like do something at 60%, because it feels super light, right? Yeah. And it's like, well, yeah, like you need to master that movement. Like you need to get it down. And part of it, like when people do movements with the empty bar, mm-hmm. and I'm like, all right, you need to do like 50 overhead squats with empty bar to get better at just holding a bar overhead and squatting it. And people are like, I don't get how this is going to make me better. I don't feel like I'm doing anything. Or it's hard to balance with empty bar. I was like, well, imagine if you could balance with empty bar, how much better weight would feel. You know what I mean? There are those people too that say like, oh, well, I can't do this until I have weight on the bar. And it's like, well, is that because you're not moving well? Yeah. Because, I don't know, there was one meet where you could see in between the curtain for the back room, there was one girl that she was cleaning, and she was literally holding the bar like this until she got about 70, 80 kilos on. Then she was able to get her elbows up. And I was just like, why? I just don't understand. Yeah, you should work on that. It would probably be even better. Yeah. Yeah. Some of that can kind of go to like especially in weightlifting, just because it is two movements. Like someone will see someone who's like at the very top of like weightlifting, they'll do something that's a little quirky mm-hmm. or a little different, and then like somebody tries to mimic that. Yeah, we'll be like, I can do that too. And like, no, dude, that guy just happens to be a freak. Yeah. Like, you're not that person.
Wasn't it Donnie Schenkel who fingertip caught everything? Yeah. Like, that's not what you recommend for everybody, but it worked for him. Yeah, like, just because it works for somebody doesn't mean it works for you. He was extremely strong.
Or like Klokov, for all those years, his heels are basically touching when he pulls off the floor. Like, and like he's snatching 180, and you're like, oh, okay, that must be how he did it. Like, no, he was an anomaly. Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have those like outliers that can do certain things. They have like hypermobility, and you just want to figure out what works for you, mm-hmm. but also make sure you're moving well. Yeah, there's certain key there's key things to like all weightlifting
Mhm.
that you have to see. Like,
Yeah.
and that's a really good point.
Can I switch gears? Just
Yeah,
a second?
switch gears.
All right. So you reached a point where you needed to reach out and you needed to find a coach. What did you look for whenever you did that? What were you looking for in finding? Deb's worked with the same remote coach now for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
What did you look for whenever you were looking for that?
I just was more so looking for someone that had more experience in the sport because Chris did my programming for a while whenever I first decided to switch. But he never had competed in a weightlifting meet, so he wasn't really there to know like how to count cards or like how the meets would run and stuff like that. So I honestly I just started to follow a bunch of different weightlifters on Instagram. Like I just used the hashtag like USA Weightlifting and just kind of looked and saw what was out there, and like that's how I met my coach. Was I just found his Instagram and I really liked what I saw, and I knew that I had seen him lift at the American Open Finals that we had gone to in Orlando. So I was pretty familiar with him from a social media standpoint, and he was actually but he was offering coaching services online. So I had, slid into his DMs and I was like, hey, pick me.
Yeah.
But it's been really great. He does a really good job. We get weekly programming, and I feel like he's been in the sport now, I guess, I think since 2009.
Oh, he's been in it forever. I remember watching videos of your coach.
I was about to say, if we had a coaching bio on Deb's coach, not only would you be surprised at what he's done in the sport, but also who he's been coached by in the sport, which speaks volumes for what you're getting, because you're getting the trickle-down effect from who he was coached by.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I remember Tim was telling me, which this is before I really knew a whole bunch about weightlifting, but the 2016 quad, Travis was the only athlete to make every international team.
Yeah.
But then still got kicked for the Olympics.
Yeah.
But they've changed that process now and how they select for the Olympics. But he's very impressive. He's been in the sport for a long time, and even now he still hits some PRs. And for someone that's been in it that long, it's very impressive to still be gaining strength.
Yeah.
I love it. I don't see myself needing to ever switch. I feel like he's gonna be there with me for the long run.
Yeah.
As long as he's coaching.
Sweet. Would you recommend in the sport, because it is a lot of times weightlifting is such an individual sport, and you're going to do it pretty much by yourself unless you're in a unique scenario where you do have a weightlifting club. And here locally, there's not a ton of weightlifting clubs. There's one or two, but would you recommend having a coach even if you're having to do it by yourself out of the garage? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it definitely would be beneficial if you're newer to the sport to have a coach there, because it doesn't help you to record yourself and then finish your training, send your videos to your coach and say you didn't finish your pull at all in any of these lifts, or you were doing this or you were doing that. Because by that time you're done training, it's kind of out of your mind, and then the next day you might not even have the same thing happening in your programming. So I think if you have an in-person coach, it's a lot better for a beginner and even intermediate too. There are some days where I feel like I could benefit from having someone in person, but I've just done it by myself for so long that I feel like if there is something that I need to correct, I'm able to figure it out on my own and self-correct. But it doesn't work for everyone. Some people need that environment where they have others cheering them on or watching them, and some people flourish in it. And I haven't been in that environment, so I don't know if it would work well for me. But I know I do really well by myself. Now in quarantine, people do Zoom trainings a lot. And I personally haven't really jumped on any of that because I know that I do well by myself, and I think it would almost be a distraction to have to worry about extra eyes on me or
timing of things.
Yeah, timing it right. So I've just stayed solo.
Yeah.
Got one more question in relationship to coaching. When you got ready to make the transition from Chris to Travis, how supportive was Chris in that transition?
He was really supportive. I asked him first before I switched. I was like, hey, like, do you think this is a good idea? Should I do this? And he was like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, if he's able to take you on, I think that it would be really good for you. And I definitely think if anyone is looking to make a switch, like, you should always talk it over with the person you are working with, just to be sure, like, you both are on the same page. You don't want to burn any bridges. Yeah. And like, if something's not working, like, communicate with that person, because they might not realize it. Like, that person might not be programming something that you feel like you need. So instead of just saying, well, oh yeah, this, like, Chris doesn't give me accessory work, so I'm just going to go find this other coach that programs accessory work. Like,
right.
You need to, like, communicate with them, and it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
And I do think you hit a good point, and I felt like I knew where you were going to go with that before I asked the question. But if you're being coached by somebody and they care about your best interests and they've got a pretty good gauge for where you're at and where you could go, if you reach that point that you need to work with somebody else, they're going to be supportive of that. Like, it's not going to be something where they're like, no, because they see your potential and they don't want to do anything to hinder your potential.
Yeah.
That's the role of a coach, is to help people become the best that they can become.
Yeah, and I think a lot of coaches are understanding of that. You might have somebody that is protective and they're like, no, like, I have trained this athlete from the start. Like, I do not want to see them go. But I think a good coach would know, like, I have done everything I can and you are more than what I'm able to do. Yeah. Like, someone who might be like a local lifter starting to make international teams, like, if your coach has never been on the international scene, it's almost better to have them go to somebody that knows, you know, what they're doing, and, like, how to travel with you and stuff like that.
Yeah, basically, like, going into that conversation with Deb, it was like, well, you got two choices. Like, if I was really gonna actually continue to help Deb, I was gonna have to integrate myself more into the sport, which at the time, like, I just started coaching full time. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to put that first, so therefore that's not fair to Deb. Like, would I feel comfortable, like, giving Deb workouts? Yeah, but kind of what she was saying earlier, like, I wouldn't. At that time, I wouldn't, like, know, like, cards. I wouldn't know strategy in comp. I wouldn't even know very well the mindset going into comps, things like that. Like, the only thing I would have been good for was giving her, like, training. Yeah. Right? And that's really, like, a third of it. Yeah. Which gets lost on a lot of people, because they're like, oh, I just want to do this programming because I think that programming is the best. Like, programming is not that much of it. And it's like, I loved what you said earlier. Like, if Deb, like, even when I was coaching Deb, it was like, if she was struggling with something, she would talk to me about it, and then she would even give her input on what she was feeling, thinking, and how it was moving. It wasn't like, oh, this is happening, and then, like, you're the coach, fix it. You know what I mean? Like,
or it's not like you see somebody doing it on Instagram, so you're like, oh, I automatically want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I saw this cool person doing this, like, exercise. Like, we should integrate this.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, why?
Why? Yeah.
Why do you think
instead
you need this?
It's more of a conversation. Why is this person doing this? Like, what would that actually?
I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to ask Deb a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Would you say there's huge danger in that? Because I think we see that a lot. We see it a lot in CrossFit, but even more so probably in weightlifting. At the point you start program hopping, there's a lot of danger in that. Like, there's a lot of danger in looking for that instant fix. And the whole time that we've been talking, something that has stood out in my mind is, you came in at 150 on your snatch and you're at 200 now, and you're somebody who, you know, we've worked with you. We can attest to your work ethic. We can attest to not only your work ethic, but your habits that you have that have nothing to do with what you're doing in the gym as far as on the barbell, but how you eat, how you sleep. We can attest to all those things, and you've been able to make a 55-pound jump in your snatch. If you're wanting those things, and that happened over a 2.5-year process, those things aren't just going to happen overnight. And I think sometimes people might see that exercise being done on Instagram. If I do that, I'm going to
That's
accomplish
secret
that.
to
And
20 pounds.
that's not the case. That's
Yeah.
not how that works.
And a lot of
So,
times, like, the stuff you don't see on Instagram is the stuff that is what's going to make you better. Like,
Yeah.
nobody wants to watch you do triples of this or just a bunch of deadlifts
Yeah.
or something like that. They want to see that heavy
Yeah.
1RM lift, the sexy part of
Yeah.
training. And it's the little things that make the difference, the accessory work, the recovery.
Nobody's posting 5x8 back squats at 65%.
Yeah. Yeah, and nobody's posting the hours that they're sleeping at night. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess some people are maybe posting their food, but like you get a little glance of what they eat in a day.
Yeah.
So like I always tell people, like, training is the easy part. That's the fun part. It's everything else that you do in the
That
day.
mundane
That's
stuff,
yeah,
yeah.
that's the super hard, and like you have to get that part right in order to succeed in the gym.
Yeah.
Because like I know, like, if I'm very bad about, like, I'll eat well Monday through Friday, and like the weekend comes, I'm like, oh yeah, like I just want to eat out somewhere.
Yeah.
And then like after eating out, then I can tell a difference in how I feel. Like I bloated, my joints might ache, just because like extra sodium or something like that. And it's like, why do I do this? Because I know it's not going to make me feel good, but like that kind of like gratification, like it does taste good.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of part that you have to remember to do, like stretching. Like I was really bad at stretching. Quarantine's been great for me because now I stretch every
Yeah.
single day because I know that's going to make me better.
Yeah.
So that's a habit that I'm hoping that I will continue on, like once I get back to work.
Yeah. Not to backtrack, but like the communication thing you were talking about too with like coaches. I think sometimes athletes forget that coaches are people too, right?
Yeah.
And so they'll, like, your coaches there to like give you programming, give you the tips. Maybe you're doing different programming, but your coach is one person. That's a thing too. But and then that athlete will like never ask questions or
Reach out.
and it's like that. What you gotta understand, that coach is probably more so assuming that everything's going fine.
Yeah. So for me, I will, like, whenever I first started working with Travis, I was so scared to text him or call him with
Right.
any kind of problem. Like, there was one time where I like hurt my wrist doing a clean, and it was like a couple weeks out from competition. I go to the competition, I have a wrist wrap on. He's like, why do you have that on? Because I never trained with it.
Right.
I'm like, oh, well, I like tweaked my wrist a couple weeks ago. And he's like, well, why am I just now hearing about this? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I didn't want to bother you. And he's like, I'm your coach. Like, you can tell me these things.
Yeah.
Like, the door is open for communication. So, like, now I let him know, like, hey, like, if something doesn't feel good, or if I need to like modify my program, like,
Yeah.
okay, like I tweak my back doing deadlifts, like I'm going to take out the rest of like this stuff for the day, or
Yeah.
like we just communicate that way so he knows, because I'm not his only athlete. He has, I think there's probably like 6 or 7 other people on my
Yeah.
team, so he doesn't.
Well, that's another thing. Like, there's no coach that's just coaching one athlete at
Yeah,
this point.
so-
maybe like over in California, maybe like Spitz is only doing West Kitts' stuff at the moment
Yeah.
because Kitts is so close to Olympics. But
Yeah, so they're not mind readers. They don't know. You have to communicate with them.
Yeah.
Even if you just like let them know how you're feeling, just
Yeah.
like having an off day, or like, hey, I feel really great. Like, I reached out to him during quarantine because I wasn't working. I'm like, hey, like, I don't have anything going on right now. Can I get some extra training? So we went from training 5 days a week to 9 days a week.
Yeah.
And then I would have to let him know, like, how am I handling my fatigue? Am I recovering well?
yeah,
What I liked about the programming, what I didn't like, and then I would tell him, like, hey, like, I feel great today, like, I only have
Yeah.
squats, can I push these? And things like that. And he just texts me back, like, yeah, if you feel good, like, go for it. Like, right now is the time to get, like, as much work over 80% as you can.
Yeah.
Just trying to build consistency at these higher percentages.
yeah,
But normally, like, as an athlete, like, I know, like, if he programs, you know, singles at this percent, like, not to decide, like, oh, well, I feel good, so I'm just going to max
Yeah.
out.
right, yeah.
So having that communication is good.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you because you can give kind of an athlete perspective. All right. Because I often, and this is like strictly a training question, this is often how I program for a lot of athletes, because doing percentage work in CrossFit can get tedious, and because of the buildup of fatigue, can be so drastic from one day to the next. You don't know how, like, even if everyone was on the same program, like even if I gave everyone the same exact work, like rowing might affect someone different than rowing affects another person. So therefore the next day, the lift they have programmed that day is going to be affected differently.
Yeah.
How do you approach days where there aren't percentages lifted? So let's say, or do you even have those days?
Where I don't have like a percentage?
Yeah.
No. So like basically every day is some sort of percentage.
Gotcha.
But even then it's like, I might sometimes have powers up to a certain percent, but I know if I just had like heavy block work the day before, the powers are more of like a technical movement. And if I don't reach that certain percent, it's not the end of the world.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So that's another way to look at it. So like, how do you handle like maybe you're not hitting your percentages that day?
I just look and see like where I'm at. Like if it's a Monday and I'm supposed to be fresh off of a rest day.
Yeah.
And I'm not hitting it, as like, did I not recover well, or is it just because it is super taxing? You have to just kind of look at it as, why is it that I'm not hitting it? Is it because I'm fatigued? Did I undereat? Or am I just not strong enough today? You know, it's not going to be the same every single day.
Yeah.
That why.
Right.
So that's another thing. You just have to talk with your coach and say like, hey, like you programmed this. I was only able to hit this, and then you have that talk and see why and how you move forward. Because if it's an under recovery thing, then maybe you drop the percentage work down for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
And try to get some movement in, but you're not going to be pushing that because you don't want to throw on more fatigue when you're already not recovering.
Right.
Just making sure that you get all your sleep, get all your calories in, things like that.
Yeah. Do you have something you're about to ask? Sweet. All right, competing. What are steps? What would be your advice to steps for people to start competing? And you could take this weightlifting, or you could take this really any sport route.
Yeah, so my advice, like first and foremost, is to find a coach. 'Cause I think having someone that you can either like lean on or have them hold you accountable is very important. And then also like programming wise, you need to make sure that you're preparing yourself as best as you can. You don't want to just like go into competition. Like nobody signs up for a half marathon and doesn't run any the day before.
Yeah.
Because you're probably going to fail. You're not going to be able to finish the 26 miles if you haven't trained for that.
Right.
So you want to make sure you're training appropriately for what you're competing for. And then also just like setting little goals for yourself. So like we call them action goals. So for me right now, like my next meet is several months out. So one of our small goals is to make sure that I hit certain numbers X amount of times before this meet. And it's not just hit the number, you have to hit it the same way every single time.
Yeah.
Just so you build that consistency, because that consistency will build confidence. So that way, whenever, like for me, when I step out on the platform, if I know I've hit 85 10 times in training and I've hit it the same way every single time and I am solid there, I can go out and open with that.
Right.
But if I'm hitting 85 and I'm running it forward or like having to like hold it in the bottom and stabilize myself, then I might not be as confident that I'll hit that. And then whenever I go out on the platform and I go to snatch, I'm going to be thinking of all those bad times that I missed it or like didn't catch it right, and that's going to affect me negatively. So I would say like do these small action goals, set for yourself that will lead to your bigger goals of like, you know, maybe you just want to finish your competition, you want a podium, you want to, you know, little things that will help you get to your bigger goal.
Yeah.
But definitely the build, and that will help you build confidence. And I think confidence is the best thing you can have going into any kind of competition.
Yeah.
Because winning isn't everything. It's not just about winning, because you could be, it's your first competition, you just want to complete it.
Right.
Or you just want to get the experience. So.
Yeah. Or you're just battling to like be better than you were yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, and that's,
yeah.
I'm sure there are people who compete who are just like, yeah, you know, I take like 8th every time or whatever, but like I made a 10-kilo jump in my last year. Like I'm really impressed with that, so I'm gonna keep doing this.
And it's fun. Like I enjoy it, and that's for us. Like that's when we get to have the most fun because we come together as a team. Because a lot of us are remote athletes, so we don't see each other every day. So when we compete, we get to have a lot of fun. We support each other in the back. We watch each other, and then we'll have the night where we can all hang out and have food and drinks together. Yeah, that camaraderie.
Would you recommend going into a weightlifting meet blind? And what I mean by that, it's your first time. You've never been to a weightlifting meet, and you either don't or your coach has never been to a weightlifting meet.
I definitely do not recommend. That was me at my first meet. Weightlifting is so strategic, and like I never realized it the first probably 3 or 4 meets that I did. I just kind of like did my own little warm up, kind of sat around, waited to be called out, and then once I started working with my coach, I learned like cards and like, okay, well, when you're X amount of attempts out, you need to be hitting this weight. When you're X amount of attempts out, you have to hit this weight. And then it's so different. And then having a coach that knows how many attempts out you are too, because it's a lot of math, a lot of counting. So I would definitely recommend at least USA Weightlifting. They have tabs that will teach you how to do that. Mm-hmm. So even if you've never done it before, you can at least go and do your own research and have a slight idea of how it works beforehand.
And I guess for those of you who haven't been to a weightlifting meet, when Deb's talking about cards, and Deb, correct me when I'm wrong, you go to a CrossFit competition and 12 minutes to find a max, you get as many attempts as you want, you can put your weight on, take it off however you want to. It's not that way at a weightlifting meet. Yeah. You get to call your weight, but your where you're going is determined by what everybody else is calling for their weight. And we see it all the time as you watch meets. You could be thinking you're getting ready to walk out onto a platform, and all of a sudden you're not. And you could go from having a 2-minute window to now you're iced for 10 minutes. And if you don't have somebody that does know what they're doing calling your cards, it could be...
Oh, for sure.
Yes, it could freak you out.
Yeah,
so
because it is, you think of it as an individual sport, but then you also have to remember that everyone is trying to compete for that gold, silver, bronze. So people might put in like, oh, I'm going to open at 80, and then 80 gets loaded on the bar, and then all these coaches are at the table bumping their athletes up. Yeah. So you thought you had 6 people ahead of you, and then all of a sudden it's your turn to go out on the platform.
Right.
So it is a little fun. I personally think that Travis does a really good job in the back room, and he's really good about counting cards, but I've seen it too where some coaches will think that they have all this time, and then all of a sudden their athlete gets called, but their athlete is still 30 kilos behind in the back, and then their clock runs out because they don't realize they're on the clock up front and they're still in the back.
Right. Yeah.
So it can get a little hectic. I think local meets are a lot easier to handle, because when you get to like the series meets or like those bigger like finals, there is a lot of experienced coaches out there that know how to run the table really well, and they will do it to their advantage, and they know their athletes, and like their athlete has to take a 6-7 kilo jump in order to get a medal. Like they're going to do that for their athlete, and it's going to throw a lot of coaches off, because some people are like, oh well, this person consistently, like they went 80, 82, they're probably going to go 84. Yeah. So they almost count that like, okay, this person's going to go next, and that person might go and bump to like 87. They take it an attempt in the back, just so that they can go out there and hit something big.
And that's the scheme of it. That's what makes weightlifting really fun to watch. Not only are you looking at the fluidity of somebody's movement, but also seeing the strategy that's going on.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite parts, is watching it and seeing that strategy. That's my train of thought. Oh yeah, I do see like some people think it's very boring because like you don't know what people's max lifts are. So some people are like, well, is that good for them? Like, is that a good lift or what? So I can see where it does get a little boring from that sense. But overall, like I think anyone hitting big weights is good to watch.
I was about to say, when you have 6 attempts and you go out there and have makes, it's a good lift for them. Like you only have 6 attempts. It's not like if you're at your local CrossFit comp and you fail it 3 times. I mean, you fail your snatch 3 times, your chance of doing anything that day are done.
Yeah.
And that's where the mental toughness really comes into play. Do you have the grind to go out there and keep on clean jerking, because you're not going to podium. I mean, you red light on 3 snatches, you're done. So.
Yeah, it definitely drains you, but you still can, like, you can bomb out on snatch and still be able to win a medal in clean and jerk.
Yes.
But you have to have that mental toughness to come back and say, okay, well, I failed on this part, but I have another job to do, and I'm going to come out and I'm going to hit a big clean and jerk.
Yeah.
But then there's some people that can't come back from that, and then they just go 0 for 6 for the day, and it's just like, okay, well, what do you do now? And that mental toughness from coming back from a meet like that, I, knock on wood, haven't had to do that, but
and that's tough to watch at a meet when you see a lifter go out and
struggle
on a weight that you know they should be hitting, like they should hit consistently.
Yeah, so. That's been like probably the most fun part of my career this far. Whenever I first started with Travis, I was predominantly like 2 for 6 or 3 for 6 lifter. Like for me, I was like, all right, well, I got a total, I'm good.
Yeah.
But now, last year, I only missed 1 snatch and 1 clean and jerk in competition all year. So every meet I either went 6 for 6 or 5 for 6.
That's huge.
And that was like the best feeling ever. I was like, I have finally become like a consistent athlete. I am like hitting numbers that I don't hit in training, like on the platform. Like this is like, that was a great confidence booster for me.
Yeah.
Just being able to go out and like have that clear mind and know that trust my coach that he's going to put the weight on the bar that I can lift, and then trusting in myself that I'm going to be able to do it as well, that my programming has paid off and I'm going to do this. And it's a really good feeling when like you have a day like that. Like going 5 for 6 or 6 for 6 is great.
All right, so what has been the toughest thing for you to come back from mentally within the sport of weightlifting?
Right now, I think it would probably be like all of last year. Like I had a small injury, and I was chasing after the international qualifying total. So I had done the same total at every meet, just like a different way. And then I had a small injury with my knee. So having to knowing that I was capable of hitting that total, but my time was never there when it was meant to be. Like you only could hit it at a national level meet, and then every national level meet I went to, it was just like not in the cards for me to hit the weights I needed to hit. So it was just very hard for me, because it was like a big goal of mine to try and hit that total to make a team. And then just feeling like you weren't good enough, because it's like, well, if I was just a little bit stronger, we could have taken like a little bit bigger jump or something like that. So that was kind of hard, but like even now, just going to like the next meet this year, knowing that I'm still making huge progress. So, but yeah, that was probably really tough for me last year.
And did you do, and we talked a lot about how you mentally approach things and how you have had a really good year. Did you do anything specifically to overcome that?
I just did a lot of just visualization training, just like in my head, like when I approach the bar, like visualizing like how the lift will feel, like how it should move. I think that really helped me a lot, especially too whenever I was hurt, knowing like I wasn't going to be lifting my normal 80 to 90 to 100%. Like visualizing it and then like still moving well within that.
Visualization, I butchered that. Don't look at the camera that way. It's always surprising to me when I watch some things about some higher end lifters or higher end CrossFitters, how much that technique's used. Like everybody uses it. Everybody talks about that. You've got to see yourself do something before you're able to do it. So.
Yeah, well, because if you only think of yourself failing, then that's what you're going to do. Like if you approach the bar or approach something with the aspect that you're not going to do well, then it's already in your head, and then that's all you're going to think about, and you're just going to fail. You have to have that positive mindset, and I think that's really helped me a lot, like knowing that, okay, you are capable, you can do this.
Sweet. Awesome.
Sweet. Well, thanks, Deb.
No, thank you guys.
Appreciate
It's
you
been
coming
great.
in. Yeah.
Come in.
Brandon, start the slow clap.
All right, cheerio.